This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the current state of WWE. It is Monday, March 4th, 2024. We are about a month away from WrestleMania 40 and some really big progressions in storylines this past week, especially on SmackDown. And y'all know where I'm going to go with this, I think, with the Rock segment that lasted 40 minutes on television and obviously, I think it overran by 10 or 15 minutes and had to cut other segments on the show because of it. But that led to a final card for WrestleMania when it comes to this program of a tag team match, which has major implications into night 2 with Cody versus Roman. And boy, what a segment, easily the segment of the night for what people are talking about. And it ran long, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Anthony, welcome to the show. And what did you make of this 40-minute segment of The Rock and Roman Reigns?
Wow. It was good, but it also felt a bit forced in a way. And look, I'm a Rock fan, and I've really appreciated him going back full heel, pulling on his Hollywood heel gimmick and his gimmick back from like 1999 as corporate Rock. But it was the first time where like it felt to me like, man, I don't know if he should be here right now. And like now you're having a tag team match on night 1, which had been rumored for quite a while. And in turn, you're kind of taking the spotlight off of not only the Undisputed Championship match of Cody and Roman, but also off of the World Heavyweight Championship match. And I'm like, well, you're the only one that's not involved intimately, I guess, with either title, and you're just deciding that you're having a tag team match. And the stipulation obviously is interesting, how if Cody wins, the Bloodline is barred from ringside, and if the Bloodline wins, then like they're allowed to be involved or whatever, or however he worded it. But while I'm still interested, it just felt for the first time that it was like intruding on other things. And obviously it runs over 25% of the show. Like almost a third of the show was The Rock. Actually, I think it's exactly 1/3 of the show was this segment. And in my head, I'm just like, was it that necessary? And it just felt like it's this entire angle, this story, it's just starting to take up too much space for me.
That's a fair. I think that's a fair criticism. I mean, I enjoyed it. It did run a little long in the tooth. It was a little bit excessive when it comes to. You could have probably trimmed it by 10 or 15. He could have got to the point in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes instead of 40. You really could have. But I understand why he's out there. He's a big star. It spikes ratings. Oh my God, The Rock's on TV. Guess what people are doing? They're calling their friends, or they're texting their friends and, hey, The Rock's on. It just creates more of a buzz. And his shirt was probably my favorite shirt he's worn thus far. It was a throwback. I loved it. And I said this on my show last night that The Rock looks like he's aged like maybe 5 or 10 years. And when I look side by side, even I'm like, it's been 20 years, 20 plus. And I'm like, without hair, he has aged very well, I have to say. And so kudos to him. I love how we're getting corporate Rock, but a kind of a 2024 spin on it. I still wish they would update his music. I heard a remix of it. I thought it was official, and it's not. But I think they should still modify it. That would kind of complete the turn. But that said, the content of his promo I thought was good. And yes, it was repetitive, and there's a lot of fluff in there, but there were some funny moments about crack. Like, I mean, how often does WWE, you hear actual explicit language about specific drugs? You never hear that. I mean, like that never comes up. So that was funny, but also a little bit non-PG. And his final line of saying, "Now go home and smoke some more crack before." I mean, that made me laugh. And it's almost like the crowd doesn't boo that, though. They were almost like cheering themselves, because getting scorched by The Rock is almost a term of endearment, and no one is really booing outside of, he gets a big pop at the beginning. No one was booing upon his entrance, by the way. Like, it's almost as if this is a babyface version of The Rock, outside of just trying to hit the audience for insults and insulting the city he's in. It's difficult to boo The Rock because he is entertaining as hell. We're getting a throwback. This is way better than his version of just kind of vanilla Dwayne Johnson coming in to play The Rock. But as far as this getting a little bit, overbearing when it comes to television, this was, it is kind of taking up space in every facet of the top titles, with the world title being the biggest culprit. We're almost forgetting there's a world title match, and it's not going to main event night one. Neither are the women, which is a big disappointment for some people. And it is a bit frustrating if you're on the roster and you're like, this damn storyline is taking up both nights of the main event. It is frustrating. I would be a bit pissed off too. But the fact is, this is the biggest storyline going on, and Rock and Roman eventually will have one turn on the other. My question to you is, early prediction. How do you feel outside of, yes, it does take up, I think, too much time. I hope they don't do 40-minute segments every week. I hope all you need is like 10, 15 minutes, and that's it. So I think, given they'll trim that down, how do you feel about the outcome of night one? If Roman and Rock win, it's Bloodline Rules, anything goes, i.e. a no DQ match, or Cody and Roman one-on-one, no shenanigans. There's benefits really to both. What do you think? What way would you want to go with the night one and then night two? How would you book it?
Well, how would I book it? I would book it that Cody and Seth win, and then there's no monkey business, because I think that there's a certain amount of integrity that you have to keep with the main event of WrestleMania. Like, for me, we always talk about, I'll give you an example. We always talk about Rock Austin, the trilogy, right? Which one, Matt, is the one you think of the most when you think of Rock versus Austin?
The second one.
Exactly. For me, that one is always a bit stained because of how it ended. And the only match where there was no outside interference was the third, which is why that's my favorite. Like, even when Triple H was in the main event of WrestleMania 20 defending his world title against HBK and Chris Benoit, one of the best main events in my opinion, probably the best triple threat match I've ever seen. For me personally, it would have been so easy for WWE Creative to insert Evolution in that match, right? That was the peak of Evolution. Evolution had been running Raw for pretty much a year. They were always involved. But in that match particularly, they weren't involved. And for me, I think that they've gotten away from that with Roman Reigns. Like, last year's main event was probably the most overbooked match I've ever seen in my life at a WrestleMania. It was the same story with him in the triple threat match against Edge and Daniel Bryan in 2021. The only match where there wasn't any hanky-panky was the Brock Lesnar match from 2 years ago, but that was so predictable that it didn't even matter, and it was and there was things taken away from it for other reasons. So, me personally, I would have Cody and Seth win, just to get like a true one-on-one match at a WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely, and that's the biggest benefit to this being just straight up one-on-one. Rock can't interfere, no one from the Bloodline can, and that makes sense to me. It's cleaner. That shouldn't be an overbooked finish. It's just who's the better man tonight with no Solo, nobody. However, the other side of the coin is, you do run the risk of overbooking this if it's Bloodline Rules, but to a lot of people and in management and creative in WWE, that there is a huge temptation here, because it allows them a lot more creative freedom and a lot more interference, which I know you and I are not big fans of. However, it does, in their minds, possibly create those beloved WrestleMania moments, meaning, and a lot of people are already predicting this, and I'm trending towards this as well. I don't want this overbooked. I want Cody, if he's going to have a victory, to do it cleanly. There's nobody who touches Roman to help him out. You want this, if this is going to be that big of a title change, to mean something and not be stained by the fact that, oh, he needed help from John Cena to come out or whatever. But what I would say is this: it would be exciting, even though I understand it could be looked at as overbooked, if you do have Bloodline Rules. Oh crap, Cody now has another hurdle to overcome. The Bloodline guaranteed are going to get involved, so you don't have to wonder if they are. You know they are. And what's Cody going to do? Oh my, he has to climb up the mountain, even in a more steep incline, to get to the top. Now he's facing another hurdle. So it's another piece of his story. And you could have, this has been heavily rumored, but I actually believe it's true, Stone Cold Steve Austin, if you've been watching his Instagram or any of his social media, he is working out like an animal right now. I mean, like crazy town. So I think that he may get involved to clear the deck of Solo, Jimmy, and possibly give The Rock a stunner, which the people would lose their minds over. That, to me, I understand that it's not about a Rock, it's not about Austin, it is about Cody and Roman. But if you only have those, like Austin or a John Cena, come out to even the odds, just to even it into a level playing field, and the bloodline is neutralized, but it comes down and back to Rock or back to Cody and Roman, I think there is something there if it's done right. However, there is a massive risk of this being overbooked if you do that.
Well, that's it, right? There's a lot of benefits and pros and cons to both, rather. And for me, I think it's more just because I'm Romaned out in his classic type of match. Like, if it wasn't for all the past matches that went down that same exact path, maybe I would have more of an appetite for a Bloodline Rules. And you know what? Probably that is where this will go eventually, because there is a lot of rumors like, will The Rock betray Roman? Is Steve Austin going to get involved and like pay homage to our nostalgia? Like, for me, I would love to see a lot of those things. It's just that we've seen so many Roman Reigns bloodline matches go down that road that I would like to just see a classic one-on-one. Like, when's the last one-on-one match Roman Reigns has had where there was no like outside interference?
I was thinking SummerSlam, but wait, nope, Jimmy. Yeah, I don't. I mean, let me think. I mean, it might be back.
WrestleMania 38?
38, I think, right, with Brock?
That's what I was thinking. And like, look, he's a heel. Heels often need outside interference. There's a reason why they're a heel. I get that. But every once in a while, like, a heel can do it on his own, can he not?
Oh, yeah. The heels don't always have to cheat to win. I've said that I totally agree. I know that there's a general rule. Oh, well, they're heel. They're going to need help to win. They're going to have to do something behind the referee's back. They're going to have to do a low blow, brass knucks. No. What about a heel that's just simply better than the babyface? Doesn't that make you more angry that there's a person who's a bad person who's better and more skilled than the good guy? I mean, I think it's a lost art.
Yep. And I think that that's why so many people like Gunther. And now I guess you could argue that you're turning Gunther babyface by doing such. But the point still stands. And look, even if he loses, like, make him lose clean. Like, look at John Cena when he defeated JBL at WrestleMania. Was it 21? 21, yes. JBL had the cabinet, the Bashams, and Orlando Jordan. They weren't involved in that match. Like, you could have easily had like this big brouhaha with Orlando Jordan and the Bashams like trying to get involved. But there's just something about WrestleMania about keeping it one-on-one, you know? And if someone does get involved, it's like a manager, like a Ric Flair for Triple H or whatever. It doesn't always have to be like, oh, here come the Usos. Okay, well, here comes Solo. Okay, now here comes Sammy and Kevin to even the odds. Oh, now Solo's back. Like, you know, last year it felt like almost like a 3-on-3 like match. Like, did it not?
Yeah. No, that's my concern. And you know what even concerns me more is no matter the outcome of that tag team match, I think even if it's in a contract, somehow they'll have a bloodline member interfere. Maybe that person will be in a hoodie so they can claim that, oh, it's not somebody from the bloodline. Who knows who it is? So they'll still have somebody interfere in that match. I really have that concern too, that, oh, well, great, Cody's not going to have the bloodline to worry about, but they find a roundabout way to see the bloodline try to cheat to win. I could see it either way, really. I mean, even if Cody wins that match.
Do you think that Cody and Seth are going to win the first match?
the more I think about it, the more I think, as of this moment, no, because the creative envelope is open to the world, and WWE loves that. I know it's a different regime. I know Triple H, this is his first McMahon-less WrestleMania, so we don't know really what to expect from Triple H. He hasn't had his own WrestleMania yet, so it's kind of difficult to see where he's going to go. But I think that they're going to look at this and go, oh, okay, well, everyone knows the Bloodline's going to interfere, so we might as well just tell them outright, hey, Bloodline is going to interfere. We're going to screw you over. And that way it's not wondering when they're going to. It's a matter of just, or if, it's when. And it's guaranteed they're going to interfere. And how does Cody counter that? What ace does he have in his back pocket? And that person or persons could be Austin and John Cena. Now, what the hell Austin's beef is with the Bloodline, I don't know, or why he's interfering, I don't know. But either way, I think the Bloodline's going to interfere. It's just a matter of what does Cody have up his sleeve to counter that and neutralize the Bloodline, and who is it?
Well, for you, like, are you approaching a breaking point with interest in the Bloodline, or has The Rock breathed new life into it?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if The Rock wasn't here, I mean, I've been kind of over Bloodline, heel Bloodline for a while. I don't groan when I see them. I don't feel like I want to vomit like when I see Cody Rhodes and his dog. I mean, like I'm like, okay, they're still a big group. It's going to be something important is going to be said. I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not super engaged like we were a year and a half ago when Sammy was involved and it was so intriguing, must watch TV. I was starting to get pretty bored with it. Am I interested in Jimmy and Jay too? No, I really am. Like, I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't give a damn about Jimmy and Jay as far as like, them. It'll be a brother or twin, fine, like, cool. But that feels like a year ago that should have happened. And so generally I'm over the Bloodline. And once The Rock, leaves, whatever he does after WrestleMania, I mean, the interest level for me decreases even more, unless they're going to build to Rock Roman at 41, but that's a year-long build. So, I mean, I think we're nowhere near the end of the Bloodline from a heel perspective anyway. I think we've got at least to WrestleMania 41 when eventually we get The Rock and Roman.
And my concern, and I'm on board with you here, but like, what does this mean for Drew McIntyre? Like, is Drew McIntyre going to take a backseat, even though he's the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship? And to be fair, and to Triple H's credit, he had Drew McIntyre address that on Monday Night Raw last week, telling Seth Rollins, like, how did he word it again? Like, sometimes it's better, like, not to chase, the risk isn't worth taking, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And I appreciated that because, I feel like under Vince McMahon, they're just like, the crowd won't care. Like, Drew's getting his world title match. Who cares? But, like, it is true that, like, Drew McIntyre was robbed of the main event at WrestleMania. Like, I'm pretty sure that would have been the main event, the closing match to WrestleMania 36.
Yep.
It wasn't going to be Goldberg versus Roman. Side note, can you believe they tried to get us to be pumped about Roman Reigns versus Goldberg at WrestleMania?
No, that's no. I haven't even heard or said the word Goldberg in a while, so that kind of I'd flush that on my head. But no, that's Vince McMahon all over it. I mean, that is Vince.
So this is pretty much Drew McIntyre's makeup moment, right? 4 years later, deservingly so. He's a heel this time around, but still, he's probably going to win the championship. I believe he will. And to get his moment. And he's doing the best work of his career. He's probably even more popular than he was 4 years ago when he first turned babyface at the Rumble in 2020. But are you going to have him being overshadowed by not only the Undisputed Championship, but by a tag match on the first night? And then, like, to say nothing of the women, like Bayley versus Io Sky, which to this point has still been underwhelming on SmackDown. Where's that going to be on the card? Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Where's that going to be placed? Like, I thought that Rhea Ripley should have at least main evented night one. Give the women something. Is Jade Cargill going to go head to head with Bianca Belair? Like, are they going to be drowned out? Like, I'm a bit not skeptical, but I'm just nervous for what kind of shrapnel is going to be thrown across the board here just to prioritize everything Bloodline Cody Rhodes related.
Well, to be fair, I mean, we are all assuming that is the night one main event, I don't think The Rock
that is true.
explicitly said, he just said on night one, we all assume if The Rock's wrestling, which he hasn't wrestled in, my God, since I don't count Eric Rowan like no one does. WrestleMania 28 against John Cena. So in an actual match, I think that was the last time. So it's been 12 years. So that's quite a bit of time, and you could promote the hell out of it because the Rock isn't wrestling on night two. There's no one-on-one for The Rock. It's the tag team match. We're all assuming that's the main event for night one. And do I think they'll do it? Probably, but they could also do it in the semi-main event. They could even open the show with it. I thought actually there's an argument to be made to open the show with that tag team match with The Rock and Roman. I mean, imagine how hot the crowd would be for that. So again, assuming that's the main event, yeah, I mean, it does suck for the women. It sucks for the world title. And I actually would not put it as the main event because I think that sends the wrong message to the roster. I think it hurts morale, honestly. I know that no one really, as fans, we don't give a damn about it, but just from a common sense perspective, if you're running the company, it's good to have other people in the main event other than just this one storyline that clogs up both. So yeah, I mean, you could argue the women's world title, but I mean, the World Heavyweight Championship also should be. I mean, how do you not have, if we're told that's the most important championship in WWE by Seth Rollins and it's not in the main event, how does that work? How do you justify that? So I would actually not book Rock, the tag team match, in the main event for night one. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I was just, I guess, foolishly assuming, but I guess it was just, he said the biggest tag team match in the history of WrestleMania, and you had a tag team match main event night one of last year. But to be fair, it had nothing. Well, I guess it did have to do with the bloodline, as it was the Usos versus Kevin and Sami. But yeah, I mean, opening night one with this match, I think that'd be pretty huge. And especially with their history of big matches opening the card lately. Like, didn't Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins open up WrestleMania 35? I'm pretty sure they did for the Universal Championship. So, I mean, if they open up this open up night one, would you think that Seth would fight Drew McIntyre later that night, or would you move him to night two?
It's a good question. I would still have him wrestle. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hell of a question. If he wrestles at the beginning of the show, you could make an argument for him also main eventing the show, but they also could push it to night two. However, then you'd have two men's championship, the two top belts in the company on night two, and night two would feel a bit lopsided. But you could also have Seth at the end of night one, main event night one, where what about if Drew screws Seth in that match? What if Drew is the reason that the Cody and Seth lose? I mean, he's so involved in this. Drew seems to have a pretty vested interest in this whole bloodline debacle. He keeps injecting himself into this. Perhaps Drew is the reason, and maybe he claymores Seth Rollins before their championship match. Seth loses the tag team match and then is seeking revenge at the end of the night against Drew McIntyre in the world title match. But also, if Drew wins, then Seth has a really bad night. So, yeah, I don't know. That's how I would do it.
And then the other thing about this is, it's like, then is it but I guess Drew is a heel, and his entire, I guess, MO during this heel run has just been taking advantage of things out of his control, even if they are indirectly benefiting him. But with this, like, do you think it could hurt or affect negatively Drew's victory if if it is the case?
I mean, no, because that's how think about his victories thus far. I mean, he's gained all this momentum just by happenstancing himself into victories. He hasn't really, at least from my knowledge, maybe like one or maybe not even that. He, along the way, since he's been a heel, almost every victory he's had has just been him being lucking into circumstance. He has enemies of his opponent. The enemies come out, his opponent gets attacked by the person that they're feuding with, and he just takes advantage, hits a claymore, and gets the victory. He's just trying to win matches. He's not doing anything underhanded, but it's also coming across that way, even though he's not doing anything wrong, really. So it's a very interesting heel turn he's had, but I don't think it would hurt him because of the way he's won matches up to this point have been almost exclusively that way. And it may just continue the way to have him win the world title. We all know who and what Drew is. It's not as if he's some upstart. He's carried the company before, so it's not as if he has to prove to fans or gain the respect of fans by not locking into it. If he does it, that's been the MO that's got him to this spot thus far. So I would continue it.
Yeah, because like he is in a way kind of turning himself back babyface because of just how, I guess, not relatable he is, but like there's nothing. I guess it is heel, but like nobody would not do what Drew is doing, right? Like he's just taking advantage of what has been made available to him. So like for me, like I want Drew to be positioned in a prominent way, and I don't want his victory to feel tainted in any capacity as well. So I guess like as long as they can position that tag match that will not negatively affect the World Heavyweight Championship match, I'm okay with this going down. Obviously, it's going to feel massive. You get to feel like the Rock and Roman are on the same page, which we haven't seen in a wrestling match capacity to this point. Cody and Seth tagging is going to feel like something, I guess, completely out of left field if you would have asked this like 2 years ago after their Mania match and their subsequent 2 matches to follow. So it's going to feel like a big match. I just want to make sure that it doesn't negatively affect any of the other title matches.
That's the key. That's going to be the thread, the hole they're going to have to thread. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do that. But I would agree with you on Drew when it comes to, that who doesn't want to win a match? I mean, what is he supposed to do if his opponent gets attacked and gets left laying and the referee doesn't see it? Is Drew supposed to stand back and go, hold on, I can't take the victory here, guys. I gotta step back and wait till he recovers. That's not fair. No, you're of course going to get a victory. You're of course just going to pin your opponent. That if the goal is to win the match, which is what we should believe, then Drew would be a fool. He would look stupid if he does not take the advantage of that. So he has lucked himself into this in a lot of ways. At the same time, he is a legitimate badass. We know what he's capable of. I really don't have an issue whether it's clean or if it's happenstance. Maybe Seth ends up, I don't know, something happens. He has a faux injury with his back, or I don't know, some wacky things happen, even if it's not someone else interfering, and Drew takes advantage of the situation. Maybe the referee wants to stop the match because of this faux injury, and Drew just hits a Claymore and gets the victory like a savage SOB. Well, he's just trying to win the match. I mean, so there's ways to do it that don't have people interfere, but still give Drew a clean victory over Seth. And I don't think Seth will be hurt by this at all. I think fans honestly are ready to move on from Seth as champion. I don't think he's turning heel, but there is a case to be made for, hey, it's almost been a year. You've had a really fun run. It has elevated this world title to where you'd hoped it would be. And I have no issue with Drew winning here, whether it's clean or whether it's happenstance and he just lucks into a victory again, which would be on pace and on par with what he's done thus far. Either way, Drew has to win this. Can you actually imagine a scenario where Seth doesn't drop the belt and he maintains? I mean, do you think there is a scenario in which Seth actually retains?
No, I don't think so. And it's nothing against Seth, but like not every title has to be a year-long run. You know what I mean? And it just feels like we've gotten to that end game with Seth in the World Heavyweight Championship. And I really think people want to see Drew win. And I don't think we'll see Drew hold the title for that long because you'll have Damian Priest lurking, assuming he cashes in on the world champion and not the undisputed champion. So, I mean, I think people are ready for Drew to be champ. I think that people would like to see a lengthy run with Drew as champ. And by lengthy, I mean, it's all subjective as to what that would exactly mean. But, I mean, how long would you like to see Drew hold the world title?
At least 6 months. I mean, after all this time, and you have Drew get screwed by just circumstances beyond his control with COVID, which I really felt for him. I mean, I remember watching that like, damn, this sucks. I feel so bad for Drew because he earned that moment with Brock and there's nobody there. I felt for him. But this to me has to be a 6-month run. Now, Triple H has shown thus far he loves himself some long runs. And by long runs, I mean like 1 year plus. He hasn't taken the belt off of Roman. Io Sky has held it for quite some time. Obviously, Rhea Ripley's held it since last year's WrestleMania. There's been, I mean, outside of the women's tag titles, which don't really count as real titles. I mean, let's be serious, the way they treat them. He has been very steadfast on longer title reigns, opposed to what Vince has done, which was a lot of hot potato. So I think Drew minimum needs to hold it for 6 months. I would love to see a longer one, but I think 6 months is a solid reign from April till, September, October, and lose it maybe towards Survivor Series heading into next year's WrestleMania. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say next fall, because I wouldn't imagine that Drew would go in holding the world title into next year. And to your point, you don't always have to do a year plus, but the Damian Priest thing is interesting because, like, would they make him cash in on Cody Rhodes? Would Cody Rhodes actually take 2 years to finish his story, only to be cashed in on by June, let's say, or whatever the deadline is for Damian Priest to cash it in? So I would actually be expecting Drew to probably hold it until May-ish. And what's a pay-per-view in there? Is that Night of Champions falls in the May timeline? Like, I could see him holding it to that point, unfortunately. I think that him losing it at SummerSlam would probably be good, because as much as they try and position SummerSlam as like a major pay-per-view or PLE and like the WrestleMania of the summer, I feel like more times than not, it comes and goes and feels a little lackluster. Like, especially this past year, the year before, I think, was the year with the tractor, right? With Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
Which I think that was Triple H's first PLE in charge of creative. But in terms of major title changes, it feels like it's been a while. Maybe Roman Reigns winning the Universal Championship back in 2018 was the last time that they made a major title change. So I think that ideally it would be until SummerSlam, but because of that briefcase, I feel like it would be even sooner.
Well, I think you brought up the point that a lot of people aren't thinking about, and I actually dropped out of my brain for a while, is we all assume Damian Priest is cashing in on the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, what about the Undisputed Championship? Like, why are we discounting that? And there is good reason, because a lot of people believe that it's, well, Cody and Roman and nobody, Damian Priest is a third party that doesn't need to get involved. But I mean, hey, there's an opportunity there that a lot of people aren't thinking about, because that briefcase is good for any championship in WWE. And sure, the Intercontinental Championship is something else he could take a shot at, but he's got until early July, so he has a few more months until he has to actually cash it in or lose it. So yeah, we're looking at, as you asked me earlier, Backlash is in France this year on May 4th. There's no June pay-per-view, and then Money in the Bank is on July 6th. So you could have actually Damian Priest cash in, I think, that day. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to see what day he actually won it. But I mean, I don't think we've ever seen someone go coast to coast, so to speak, where you have someone win it and then cash it in at the next year's Money in the Bank. I don't think we've ever seen that. So that's a possibility too, where Damian goes the distance and ends up cashing in at that same event. But at that point, you'd be like, you'd know a cash in is coming, because that's the last opportunity. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, that people are discounting the Cody Rhodes cash in factor. I mean, I honestly don't know what I would do with Damian. I'm back and forth. Would you actually have him be successful in the cash in, or have it be a wasted cash in?
I think it has to be successful, just because. Did you hear that?
Yes, it was a big whistle or feedback from your mic, I'm guessing.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you edit that out?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Wow, that really threw me off track there. But no, I think you have to make him cash in, honestly, because last year was a failed cash in on the United States Championship. The year before was Big E, which was successful. But then the year before that, Otis won it, and then it got transferred to The Miz. And I'm like, then the year before that, I think it was Brock Lesnar. So for me, it's been a few years since the Money in the Bank briefcase felt like a legitimately big deal. And I think that with it, I was about to say around the waist of Damian, but in the hands of Damian, it's felt more legitimate, like more of a traditional Money in the Bank, like a big moment, like a crowning moment for a main eventer. And I think that you have to capitalize on it, because I do think Damian Priest is a budding main eventer, a budding superstar, no pun intended. Yeah. And the last 4 years or so, the Money in the Bank hasn't felt like that. Like, obviously, Theory cashed it on a mid-card title, and it blew up in his face. Big E, I mean, that was okay, but it happened, 2 months after, and like I found his main event run was a flop. We already went through the Otis thing, and then Brock was just a weird Vince McMahon type of decision. So, and then I think even Baron Corbin the year before that failed to cash in, or I think 2018 was someone else as well. But all this to say, it's been a while since the Money in the Bank briefcase felt as big as it does now. because it's making you kind of forget that it's there, which is kind of the point. And it feels very akin to when Edge held it with the inaugural match in 2005, and he cashed in, I think, with 2 or 3 months to spare. And it feels like this is the longest time someone's held on to that briefcase since then.
You're bringing nostalgia back for me. When Edge cashed in against
you were there, right?
At the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view elimination chamber match right after John Cena had retained. Yeah, Edge cashed in, and very proud to say, I say this every time, but it's very much worth saying. We were one of the few audiences at that time to just heavily destroy John Cena when it comes to booing. We weren't the first, but it felt very good that Albany was united in their hate for John Cena at the time. So I'm proud to say I was part of that. But that said, I mean, that is right. I mean, you have an opportunity right now to have Damian Priest be anointed as the top guy. It's just that the timing seems weird, because if you do it against Cody, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to see that, especially after all the struggle and complaining of a heel champion that's never there. 3.5 years. We know the numbers. But also Drew McIntyre winning, assuming he wins. It's like, well, you got to give him time to breathe as champion. He's an excellent heel. At that point, you would have a heel cash in on a heel. So how does that work? So, I mean, it is a bit perplexing. The timing of Damian Priest and the cash in is a little weird, but they have to make it work for the integrity of the briefcase and what that briefcase means. You have to have it be successful, I think. And you have to have it done against probably the world champion. Cody makes no sense, given what everything will mean when he finally conquers Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. So, I don't know if you have any final thoughts as we wrap it up here.
Well, all I would want to say is that when he does cash in, I really want it to feel like a big deal, because I think that Damian Priest, aside from, well, I know you have Gunther too, but I feel like Gunther's on the verge of being a babyface, don't you?
Oh, I think he's in transition right now.
Yeah, so because I was about to say, aside from Roman Reigns, Damian Priest could be the biggest heel the company has, but I was going to pivot to Gunther, but I really don't think that Gunther's going to be a babyface for that much longer. And without Gunther as a heel, or not, he's not going to be a heel for that much longer. And without Gunther as a heel, like, it could be Damian Priest, to be honest with you. Like, aside from Roman Reigns, like, who else feels like a major heel right now in WWE aside from Roman Reigns? Like, The Rock, well, he's not full time. AJ Styles, well, he's past his prime. Drew McIntyre, for sure. Drew McIntyre is right up there. Logan Paul, but like, Damian Priest could be that major guy, I guess. That major big heel.
He had, yes. And that's the thing that also I think that needs to be reiterated is Damian Priest has where he was to where he is now, and the progress he's made on the mic, his presence in the ring. I mean, just everything. He is absolutely, I think, a believable and deserving champion when and if it happens. And I don't think we should overlook that. Now, whether or not the Judgment Day is going to disband or not, I don't think they will, but that's another conversation. And as you mentioned with Gunther, who it would be a perfect formidable opponent, assuming he loses the Intercontinental Championship soon and moves up after that. You can't have heel. So Gunther, who is ultra respected by the fans, never puts on a bad match. You can't see through his work. It just got such a unique look, all of it. And he really would be, I think, an excellent babyface, because he doesn't even cheat to win, by the way. So I think you could have him transition slowly into the babyface character that would ultimately challenge Drew McIntyre, maybe at a SummerSlam or something like that. I wouldn't rush Gunther into the world title picture. You have it there ready to go. But Gunther, that is going to be, I think Imperium's going to implode very soon, and Gunther is going to be on the hunt very probably within a few months after WrestleMania, when he loses the Intercontinental Championship, that we're all assuming. A lot of assumptions here, but
yeah, there's just so much talent that they could work with here and really push into an ascension towards the main event scene. And Gunther and Damian Priest, like, in a year's time, could we not be talking about that as like one of the main events of WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship, Gunther versus Damian Priest?
I have no issue with it. That sounds like a very plausible main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, and Gunther struggling to reach the top. I think fans will be with him the whole way. I really do. I really think the fans will have no issue when they're ready to turn the switch on Gunther to get behind him. He's actually kind of funny too. Like, people don't realize the things he says and does in the ring. like when he's on the mic and insulting his opponents, I think he's kind of funny, and I don't think he's doing it on purpose, but he's quick-witted on the mic, and he's again he's got that it factor, man, that I'm ready for him to be world champion. I think he's ready to move up, and when we get a Damian Priest and Gunther main event, Gunther should be the heel here. I don't see Damian Priest turning babyface at this point. I think it is absolutely going to be a Gunther babyface turn much faster than a Damian Priest. So, any final thoughts on WrestleMania 40? As we're 4 weeks, a little over 4.
It's crazy how fast it moves, but no, I mean, I'm sure as we dive into it more and more over the coming weeks, I'll have more thoughts, but we cover a lot of ground here to even tease the possible main event for WrestleMania 41.
Absolutely, and I'm sure next week we will have another, hopefully not 40-minute, but we'll have a Rock segment to break down, as he's going to be on the next 2 consecutive SmackDowns. And then I don't think he'll be on the Go Home show. I don't believe. I'll have to check, which is odd that he's not going to be on the Go Home show. But The Rock is going to be on the next 2 SmackDowns, and then it'll be WrestleMania 40. So we'll have another, hopefully shorter Rock segment to dissect next week.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.